this kid right out of your junky ass hands.
Where is she?
I'm gonna bring her home. She belongs with me.
So Topside was a very specific film because in our eyes, it all takes place in an environment I hadn't really seen on film before, which is this abandoned subway tunnel with people living in it. Do urban exploration videos to kind of get a sense of, you know, people charge their phones off a car battery down there, you know, and they do use their cell phones for a lot of light. So we use those two things just to be authentic and honest to what someone's life might look like underground. So I was mainly testing digital cameras, and I wound up with the Alexa Mini as a camera that had great definition in the blacks. It didn't feel like it got anywhere close to noisy, as long as you weren't pushing the ISO into like the 3200 range or something. And then we ended up with super speeds as well, in part because we wanted a camera that was so small and could fit into these very tiny shacks, and then I could honestly bear the brunt of for like 40-minute takes. You know, I didn't want to have a colossal camera that got in the way and messed up the process. I wanted a very agile, small camera that wouldn't get in the way. I could be on the ground in 1 second, it could be above my head, I could be standing on a bed, I could be crouched on the ground. Like, we shot like 75% of the movie just on the 50 mil, and then like 10% of the movie on the 85, and then like we shot like 1 or 2 shots on the 35. So we ended up shooting the movie with basically 2 or 3 lenses. From a physical standpoint, we were constantly filming in very confined locations, whether that was a shack that we specifically built to feel small, or a subway car with lots of poles in the way that we have to sprint back and forth down, and I'm weaving in between poles as I'm running with the character, or I'm doing it backwards. Me and the directors had a lot of conversations about like what darkness looked like in this film and what background darkness looked like versus, hey, there's no key in this scene. Like, there shouldn't be a key, right? She's in a tunnel in the middle of nowhere and she doesn't have a cell phone, or shit, blah, blah, blah. So like figuring out just what looked organic and still made sense, and also how to light a quarter-mile long tunnel without outlets, without power. You know, how do we use darkness as a way to cut between locations that aren't physically next to each other? That was definitely one of the most challenging parts of the shoot, of just how to do it, and then once we get it up and running, how are we making sure it stays authentic and not feels like a lit tunnel, you know? And that was part of this camera package, was making sure this camera could make cinematic images but also perform like a documentary camera. And then in terms of just the soundscape of the film, you know, Logan and Selena had very clear intentions of what it would sound like, because entering that tunnel puts you in this very different audio experience where, you know, echoes are everywhere and you can hear every little pin drop if no one else is in there. We wanted to get the sense of the tunnel because so much of it is in darkness. You don't want the tunnel to disappear, right? You still want to feel it. And so we did that with sound and lighting. We use prisms to kind of warp the light a little bit and kind of give you this sense of something's happening with my eyes and something is new, and that eventually goes away. But at that sort of beginning mark where they do leave the tunnel and she's bombarded with all this light and sound and people and chaos, yeah, we were very intentionally trying to disorient the viewer a little bit. Hurry up and roll, basically, was the motto on set, because as soon as the little girl arrived to set, we were filming. Even if the slate hadn't come in, even if there were still people, we would just start rolling, because we never knew when she would have, you know, a line of dialogue that just came out of her mouth out of nowhere. That's like, whoa, we need to use that, because she didn't read a script. She was just kind of thrust into everything. She was, you know, only 7 years old. This is her first time on set, so everything was based around her and her performance. Like, we didn't even shoot the wides first. I felt very well supported and taken care of by Arri Rental. We prepped everything out of the Brooklyn house location in Greenpoint, and pretty much any time we needed anything, you guys were there with it. If you had to ship it from somewhere, it was there. It would show up on time. And there was a lot of diagnosing with this camera. I mean, we made it as very small as possible. So we had a special rubber single filter matte box on there. We had a battery belt that I would wear for most of it, so the camera could literally get like no matte box, no batteries. It was just like the lens, the body, and the microphone.
Hello?
I was just wondering if you had any beds to stay.
You don't have to call anyone.
It's just a hotline.
Sweetie, it's not here. Just take a minute.